earmuff, you stay on hard.
All right. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to the live Sunday edition of the BCSN SportsWrap Sunday Night Live. I'm Brian Fulford, joining the show as always on the road, my good friend and partner for the last 7 years of doing this show, A.D. Drew. A.D., how's the roads out there where you traveling from?
The roads are dark, as it is for one of our teams that was in the CIAA who was looking to get into the D2 playoffs.
Yeah, we just finished watching the announcement of the NCAA Division II playoffs, and we'll obviously all we have are the CIAA and the SIAC champions in the dance. And we'll talk about him in a minute, but
and the CIAA champion wound up going to a different dance hall than the SIAC champion.
Right. So we will not get what we almost got last year, which was a matchup between the two schools, the same two schools from last year. Of course, we're talking Benedict College, winners of the SIAC, and Virginia Union, winners of the CIAA. We'll break that down in a moment. But the bigger story, Drew, coming from this past weekend, and no, it's not the chaos in the SWAC West, although it would be the SWAC to try to come in, at the end of the show, at the end of the weekend, and try to create all the drama, right? Just as if
Can I quote Kelvin Rozier?
What did Kelvin Rozier say? Oh,
don't
yeah.
trust the West.
Of course. That's the new T-shirt. That's the new T-shirt. I'm going to go ahead and trademark that for him, and that's just going to be the new motto. Just going to put the 6 schools on it, and, just kind of all have – I tell you, the visual is all those schools sitting around a table and put like a trophy on top of the table. And it just, who wants it? Don't trust the West.
Now, put the trophy falling off of the table. That's the vision.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got the MEAC-ish, don't trust the West, and SIAC-ish.
Yep.
We just waiting on something from the CIAA now.
I thought you had a different name for the SIAC.
SIAC-iotic.
SIAC-iotic. There you go. So we just finished up with the SIAC-iotic mess. Then we move into don't trust the West, and then of course we had the good old MEAC-ish issues that came out, and man, I tell you what, number one goes down. Number one, our BCSN No.1-ranked team, number one in quite a few polls. Obviously, if you didn't have Florida A&M ranked number one, you had North Carolina Central ranked number one. And they make the trip up to Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. From what I heard earlier, all kinds of special dignitaries from the Celebration Bowl to the conference were all in attendance, right? Ready to crown North Carolina Central the champs. And all Howard did was just show up and let the Bison roam free, and they just curb stomped North Carolina Central by a score of 50. That's right, 50 to nothing. 20. I almost said nothing. Might as well have been nothing. It was 50 to 20.
Hey, Brian, we put 50 on them last year. Who wants to see that again?
Man, was that you know what, I was sitting here about to pull the quote. I found the video from where he said that. I don't know if he said it in multiple places, but I did find the YouTube where Coach Trey Oliver at North Carolina Central made those comments. Yeah, and you know, flat out, they put 50 on them last year. You know, the whole commentary before at the you know, was Larry Scott had dropped the comments about needing a change. No, they were 5 and 6 last year. But anyway, they were co-champions crowned by the conference, and so Central felt some kind of way about it, as I was led to believe that they were going to come into this game with an extra sense of whoop ass. I guess that's the best way I can say it. They were just, you know, they were so hyped up, ready for this game, and all Howard did was own them from the jump. Howard never trailed this game. Of all the statistics from this ball game, although, hey, Drew, 50 is an impressive number. It's an impressive statistic. But of all of them, I look at North Carolina Central's offense. They're a highly regarded offense, led by Superman himself, Davius Richard. Only racking up 198 total yards of offense, 77 passing, 120 rushing, and the fact that Richard accounted for 168 of those yards.
So percentage-wise, he did what he normally does.
Sure, which is account for just about any and everything that the team needed, right? Yeah, he did his job, I guess, in perspective. But you know, Howard had 28 first downs to 10. You know, they were 6 of 13 on third down compared to 3 of 11 by North Carolina Central. Howard was 4 for 4 on fourth down, amassed 521 total yards. They got a complete game from their quarterback, Quentin Williams. 23 of 33 for 277, 3 touchdowns, and he had a rushing touchdown. I mean, he actually played the role of Davius Richard. He said, Davius Richard, I've been watching you in this conference do what you do for the last 2 years, and I'm going to do you better in this game. And so, yeah, Drew, it just unbelievable. I think I was on the road, and I first saw the first alerts from Dr. Cavill when it was 14-0, and I was like, huh? I was like, uh-oh. And I think the first upset alert that he dropped was at that point when it was 14-0. And then I started watching it. It just snowballed, man. I'm just unbelievable what we saw. Any takeaways on the game? Because there's a lot to talk about as a result of that game, but just in terms of the game, any thoughts about that game before we get into the ramifications of that game?
Well, you know, where people on the other end don't know, you and I were together for a few hours on yesterday, and you know, we were kind of monitoring the game, but weren't actually able to watch it. You would get a score, I would get a score, we would talk to each other and tell everybody. But let's be honest, when the score was 14-7, we both was like, okay, Central woke up, they're gonna make this run. Then we looked up, it's 21-7, like, uh-oh, this thing might be for real.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the trend of the weekend. on the FCS level this weekend. But here's the question I've got for you, Bryan. Did anyone have on their bingo card back in July the fact that Howard may be the first MEAC representative in the Celebration Bowl who is not from the Carolinas? And I say maybe because there's still some work to be done up in D.C. Just still some work in D.C.
Yeah, there's still some work to be done. I lost you there a little bit. You probably hit a little spot where the signal, but you're still sounding good though. So don't panic. It was just probably rolled through a minor little dead spot. So what does that game mean? And I was hoping we were working on trying to get our good friend Trevin Jones, who is the voice, the play-by-play of Howard University football on. I know he's just getting off the road himself. So we're trying to get Trevin in to kind of talk a little bit about the game from that perspective. But let's talk about what that game means. Obviously, from the MEAC perspective, because there's also ramifications as it relates to not only, the playoffs, but then the Celebration Bowl. So from the MEAC perspective, what does this mean? Well, and hold on. Before we get going, I think we got Trevin here to join us. So I know he's got a busy schedule, so I don't want to keep him too late here. Joining us on the show, our good friend, joining us, Trevin Jones, Urban Media Today, and also the voice of Howard University football. Trevin, I know you just getting off the road, man, but I tell you, it must have been a heck of an experience calling that game. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, Brian. Mr. Fulford, it's good to see you, my brother. I hope the audio sounds good. And AD Drew, good to see you as well. First and foremost, it was amazing. The reason it was amazing is because I've been the voice of the Bison for about 10 years now. And the last 8 times that the Bison have faced North Carolina Central, we've come up on the negative end. So this year, we actually came up on the positive side. And when I say that, I'm talking about the Howard University Bison. And the score this year was 50 to 20, which was flipped because last year the score was 50 to 21. The reason I keep mentioning that 50 is because that's significant. I don't know if people heard the sound from Coach Trey Oliver from preseason. But I thought, and during our cast, I tried to stay away from that. But at the same time, you have to, as reporters and announcers and giving information to listeners, you have to give the information that's out there. And during our cast, let me know if I'm going too long.
No, you're good. You're good.
During our cast, I was mentioning that back and forth. Nate Henry does the color commentating. I do the play-by-play. And it was kind of interesting because Nate and I were talking about that and had mentioned the fact that Coach Oliver had said in the preseason, someone asked him about the MEAC championship, and I'm paraphrasing. And he was like, why would there be a MEAC championship game? We put 50 up on them. Who's going to pay to see that? That's the gist of what he said. And no disrespect to Coach Oliver. I like Coach Oliver. Let that be known. Coach Trey Oliver is an awesome man. He's doing great things with the North Carolina Central program, and he's looking to do even bigger things. So I have the utmost respect for him. So I mean no disrespect when I mention that. But I did mention that for a reason because, as I heard secondhand, this was even after the game because I didn't get to say it during the cast. That I think Coach Scott, they had Coach Oliver's quote being broadcast throughout practice all week. He said we put 50 up on him. Wow. So that being said, it got to a point in the game where the Bison had the game well in hand. They're up 48-20 at that point, and they go for two. Well, going for two would have been 50. So they go for two, they get the two. So now it's 50-20 final score for the Bison, as opposed to the 50-21 score last year for the Eagles in North Carolina Central. Black college football in this game, gentlemen, if everyone that's listening, if you're not supporting or going out to black college football, you need to do so, because these young athletes, Davius Richard, I give him props. Davius Richard, the quarterback for North Carolina Central, he just couldn't get it together. His timing, he couldn't get into a rhythm because at Howard University, I call him the Buffalo Soldier defense. That front, Darren Brokenberg, I think he had the game of the year for himself. I think he had three sacks, if not 3 sacks, he had 2 sacks. I think he had 2 tackles for loss. And he was one of those gentlemen that just was in. Davius Richard will not forget that. That's for sure. The offense for the Bison was amazing. And I started by saying, all of you that support black college football, if you don't, you need to go out and see these men play, because these young men are awesome at what they do. The reason I say that, you have Casey Hawthorne for the Bison. Quentin Williams played an immaculate game as the quarterback for the Bison. You have, Jared Hunter, Ian Wheeler, Eden James. I call him Give It to 5, Get 5. His number's number 5, so his nickname is Give It to 5, Get 5, because he averages over 5 yards a carry. Those gentlemen came out to play. And Bryan and A.D., you could see it. I think the Bison played their best game of the season. And the reason that I think it was so awesome is because the invitation to the Celebration Bowl was on the line. If Central had won, they would have wrapped up the championship. They would have wrapped up the invitation. Commissioner Sonia Steele was there. We got to interview her at halftime. So it was a big game. So with the Bison getting the win, that means that now they're in control of their own destiny. Will have to beat Morgan State in Green Stadium next weekend. That is not going to be easy to do, because Morgan State has an awesome defense and they've been playing well. But again, kudos to the Bison. Jared Hunter had Bryan and A.D. Jared Hunter went into the line for the Eagles of North Carolina Central. He ran into a player. He actually spun from the initial impact, put his hand on the turf, kept his balance, and raced 30 yards for a touchdown. That was an amazing play. And then Casey Hawthorne, you can see these highlights were on ESPN as well. But Casey Hawthorne at the back of the end zone went up to catch the ball and just got his toes down in the back of the end zone for another one of the scores. So, I mean, it was exciting. This is the type of game that everyone needs to see over and over again, because these two teams went at it. Of course, the Bison, I had to calm myself down. I was so excited. You
talked about. Go ahead, Drew. You're going to sound like you were going to have to jump in there and ask a question.
Yeah. Questions for you, Trevin. And you may have answered this without realizing that you answered this question that I've had since early in the fourth quarter on yesterday. Central down. I can't remember. They were down 4 scores at that point. They had 14 to, what would that be? 42. I believe it was 42-14 at that point.
Yes.
They get the touchdown.
Yes.
And they go for 2.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out what chart they were looking at that told them to go for 2 when they were down 28. 22 20, and I'm like 8 in 24. You still need 4 scores. But when you just said that score, 50-21.
Right. You know what, AD? I give the Eagles credit for that, because they go for 2 to show they're still fighting. They're still, you're down, but you're still.
I'm sorry, I'll back y'all. I said that score, 50-21. That's what it was. They were trying to get to 22. Is that why you think they went for 2 at that point?
That's a good point, but I didn't think about that. What I was thinking was, and what I could, Coach Oliver, they're competitors. And I'm thinking, okay, so we're down by at least 3 touchdowns right now. Let's go for 2 so that we can get, maybe there's other opportunities coming in this game. Because you still have to play. People were saying, okay, it's a 4-score game, a 3-score game, but you still got to play. You still have minutes left. So I'm thinking Coach was trying to get as many points as he could, but I never thought about he just wanted to get to 22, so it wasn't 50-20 as opposed to 50-21. 22.
That was 10-22 when North Carolina Central scored. It was 10-22 left in the fourth quarter. So yeah, I agree. There's still plenty of time, and at that point, you're only down by
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
You still needed a total of 4 touchdowns. They got 1. Made it 3.
Yeah, but AD, I don't mean to cut you off, but you remember you just started the fourth quarter, so it's only 5 minutes gone in the fourth quarter at that point. So you're trying to get momentum on your side, back on your side of the field, even though you're down by 3 touchdowns or 4. It's like, okay, let's see if we can get it going. Because, and I say that because this gentleman, Davius Richard broke off a 45-yard touchdown run, if I'm not mistaken, or 76 yards. And then you had, and forgive me because I've been calling his name all day yesterday and I can't call it right now. The punt return for 85 yards. So the 14 points that they had gotten prior to that wasn't from and no disrespect to the offense, but great respect to the defense. It wasn't from the offense. Right. It was from special teams. And then your quarterback, Davius Richard, I think it was a 75-yard run. Your quarterback getting a 75-yard run for a touchdown. So when you look at the game and look at the flow, your offense wasn't producing. So now finally you get in the end zone. Let's see if we can get some type of rhythm going is what I was thinking.
I think, Drew, look, not to bury too deep into the woods with the most innocuous thing, but yes, if North Carolina Central goes for the single point, they have 21, and it's 42-21, which anybody does the math, that's 21. That's an even 3 touchdowns, right? 3 plus 3, right? But like you just kind of brought up, interesting point. Yeah, if he goes for the 2 and gets it, now they got 22, and maybe coach is thinking, hey, worst case scenario, if this is all we score, at least we got 22. I don't know if I would have never thought about that in the life for the life of me.
Like during the game, correct? Yep.
Yeah, I would have never thought about that. I think it's just more interesting, the whole 50 thing and going for it, getting it, and then the fact that you've been playing it all weekend in everybody's head, and it just kind of comes up. You got the comments. I mean, that's what the big story is. But how about you just talked about these key performances, Trevin, and just in case I mentioned
Ryan,
Williams.
If I could, real quick, Brandon Codrington. That's who it was with the 85-yard punt return. I want to make sure I mentioned him. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. No. You mentioned some of those numbers. You mentioned the 3-headed running back, Jared Hunter, Eden James, Ian Wheeler, Casey Hawthorne, 6 for 114, 2 touchdowns. All of them should be up for MEAC Player of the Week. Might even get some National Player of the Week recognition. Here's my big question, though. With Morgan State coming in, and I've already heard and I've already seen it trending on Twitter that this is a big game for Morgan State. This is their payback game, just like it was Howard's. And you talked about guys playing maybe their best game. Is there any worry that you've played your best game one game too short? I mean, what is the turnaround likely for a team that has been up and down 500 this entire season, now sitting at 5-5, and now you got to turn around with one game to win it all?
Well, you know what? To answer that question, this is what I want to say. I want to say that I think that because that was mentioned during the cast, but I think that Coach Scott will have the team ready to go. Because I think just like he used motivation from, and this is just me assuming because I haven't talked to Coach Scott, I haven't been around the coaches. He found, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, blackboard information that he utilized the audio from to keep your team pumped up all week for practice. Well, he could do the same thing with the Morgan State game because remember this, gentlemen, it is a payback game for Morgan State, but also I think the South Carolina State game woke the Bison up and taught them a lesson. Last season, we called the game in Morgan State in Baltimore, and remember the Bison beat them to win the MEAC championship last year. So now you have the Bears coming to Green Stadium, and the Bison know that they have to beat them again to win the outright MEAC championship. So I think that's motivation alone, and I think that will keep the coaches and the team on their toes and prepared, because they know, okay, wait a minute, we're not done. If you had seen the focus on these young men, they were focused. They were grabbing each other to cut celebrations short. Mind you, they're up by 2 touchdowns. Teammates were grabbing teammates who wanted to celebrate, and they're like, no, we got work to do. And you literally could see that on the field. I actually saw Casey Hawthorne grab somebody and say, no, we're not celebrating. Let's go. And if they did any celebrating, it was on their side of their field. So I think the team will remain that focused. I think they know that they have a hell of a challenge next weekend against Morgan State. I think that the X factor for this one will be, and I will challenge all Howard University alum, all Howard University students, undergrad, grad, whoever, to be at Green Stadium on Saturday, because I think that you all being there will give the injection of strength, motivation, support, and help the Bison get that outright MEAC title. This will be the first time, if the Bison should win on Saturday, it will be the first time they've ever gone to the Celebration Bowl. There's a lot on the line.
Right. Last time Howard won the MEAC title outright was when? Can you recall?
I can't recall. Not outright. And it would have been before my time. As I said, I've been there for 10 years, and I haven't even come close, except for last year, to be honest with you.
Right.
Trevin, is there any concern that Morgan considers Howard a rival? Howard does not consider Morgan a rival. Is there any concern of that level right there? Because Erica Lee mentioned that this morning on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
I don't mean
to the X's and O's podcast.
Right. I mean, no disrespect, but any team in the MEAC is a rival. When you step between those lines, these cats are out to play. I mean, maybe we as the media might play that and say, okay, they're not a rival. Like Morgan doesn't consider Howard a rival. Howard doesn't consider Morgan a rival. Brother, if you have seen these teams play the last 10 years like I have, that's out the window. You're a rival. The minute you step on that field and you challenge me, it's on. And that's the way both institutions have played all over the years that I've been there as well. And I would say even for the MEAC conference, you step between the lines, whether you're Delaware State, Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Morgan State at this point, you're a rival.
All right, so here's the scenarios, just in case people didn't know. Next week, you have at 1 o'clock, Morgan State traveling to Howard, 1 o'clock at Green Stadium, senior night, last regular season game. You also have Delaware State traveling to North Carolina Central, their senior day. I think that game's probably 1 o'clock as well. If Howard wins and defeats Morgan State, they will win the MEAC outright and go to the Celebration Bowl. If Morgan State were to win and North Carolina Central were to win, North Carolina Central would win the MEAC and go to the Celebration Bowl. If Morgan State wins and Central loses, which right now, look, anything's possible, even though Delaware State is 0-4, Morgan State would be the team that would finish as the outright champ and go to the Celebration Bowl. Hey,
Bryan, should Morgan State get what we have, an upside down team in the Celebration Bowl?
Yes, because it'll be that'll be because I don't even think the years South Carolina State went, they were 6-5. Right?
6-5, right.
Right.
So if Howard should win, they'll be 6-5, and they will go to the Celebration Bowl. The game time, I would say keep your eye on that, because I think last weekend's game was originally supposed to be at 1 o'clock and it was changed to 3:30. So I'm thinking that this week it might happen again. I don't know, but just for anyone listening, just keep your eyes out, because the stadium needs to be packed. And I'm thinking if the game time is changed to 3:30, oh, it's going to be off the hook because they have a light show. I call them the dancing lights.
I saw the light show. I didn't expect that. That was next level, man.
Yeah,
that was good.
That's next level. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
It just adds to the excitement. It adds to the game, to the flow. And I think Morgan State, the last time they played at Green Stadium, I believe it was a night game because Nate Henry and I called that game as well. And that wouldn't have been last year, but it would have been the year before last. And that was exciting. So I'm thinking that could happen again this year. But, I mean, if I could say anything to anybody, just get out to the games. Oh, my goodness. Norfolk State put up 44 points this weekend. And, you know, Delaware State is no slouch either. South Carolina State, Jarwin Howe. Oh, my goodness. If you have not seen a running back in the league, Jarwin Howe, Eden James, Ian Wheeler, Jarwin Howe's with South Carolina State, of course. Ian Wheeler, Eden James, Jared Hunter.
The running backs in the MEAC are legit. They're legit.
Off the hook. I mean, these cats are real. And I'm hoping, I know I didn't mention some other running backs around the conference, but just those running backs have been impressive to me this season. The X factor, I think, for the Bison may be the Buffalo Soldier defense again. Last weekend or yesterday, they just played an outstanding game.
How crazy is the parking up there at Green Stadium?
We're in the middle of D.C. There's no room, brother.
So see, Delaware, there's no parking whatsoever. So you just gotta have to what?
No, I mean, as far as
bus in. How are you gonna get there?
Just get there. Any way you can get there, get there. Because if you don't, you're gonna miss a hell of a game.
I know the one time I went to Green Stadium, I don't know whose house I wound up in front of, but I just pulled over. It's like this close as I'm gonna get.
Right.
So the schedule right now on the website, the scheduled start time for the Central game is 2 p.m. and right now it's scheduled at 1. I think it would. Now, you know, TV dictates all of this, although these games are scheduled for ESPN Plus. So I don't know if you have that kind of freedom, but I think it would be good either way for both of these games to start at the same time. I would hope that is done just to compete, just to have that fairness, a word I hate using, but to have some equality in this contest, because you know what you don't want to do is what you see is one team starting at 1, the other team starting 2 hours later.
Right.
And then you're gonna have somebody watching. No, I think
check this, man. To add to the drama, are you kidding me right now? I would love to see the game time change from 1 o'clock to 3:30 because you've already seen results for other games, and then you have this game being the game that's I think would be the featured game of the weekend as far as the MEAC is concerned, starting at a later time.
Oh, sure, sure. Well, yeah, you're right. I do now in that case, I do think you're right. I think Morgan State Howard, if you were going to flex or move some game times, should probably move to a 3:30, even a 4 o'clock start, and put it 2 hours behind North Carolina Central. So now, if and when North Carolina Central were to win, now it just adds to the drama, and I think the television viewership would almost triple for that,
I would think so.
game. Yeah,
I would think so. I would
all
hope
eyes
so.
would be watching. All eyes would be watching. Okay, Trevin, I know. Hey, man, I appreciate you taking time to join us tonight. Congratulations to hey, look, you did a great job calling the game. I'm sure it was a memorable experience.
Thank you.
And you got one more to go, man. And who knows? You might be celebrating that championship, and might be in Atlanta calling that game. Celebration Bowl.
If I can, WHBC 96.3 HD3.com. That's where people can listen to the game. I got to say thank you to Derek Bryant, Siobhan Mansfield, Kerry Davis, and Coach Larry Scott, as well as Steve Robinson for assisting with the getting the broadcast out so that people can hear it. They've done an awesome job all season. That was the athletic staff as well as HBCU, WHUR Radio. So definitely have to say, thank you to them as well.
All right.
Hey, Trevin, before you get out of here, I know you got to go. Give us 30-second elevator speech on HBCU Pro Sports Media.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. First, I have to say before I do that, Sean Plater with WHBC 96.3 HD3 got to put his name in there as well. HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. If you are a journalist on social media covering the HBCU platform in any way, shape, or form, announcer, even if you're a sports information director, you're working in sports information departments, check out HBCU Pro Sports Media Association.com. I think it's HBCU PSMA. Help me out, gentlemen. HBCU PSMA.com, I believe. That's the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. 50 members strong at this point in time. And what we do is bring everyone together so we can network and help each other increase and diversify the coverage of the HBCU platform. Did I get it right, AD?
Except you forgot to tell everybody your position in the organization.
Oh, so you really trying to put me out there? Brian, what was the?
I wasn't going to do all that, but Drew.
Yeah, right. So I am the president at this time, one of the founding members, as well as Bryan and A.D are also founding members as well. So definitely check that out. Bryan just put up the location, and we cover all HBCU sports. It's interesting to see who's going to be ranked where this coming weekend, because Benedict still undefeated, won the SIAC championship. Virginia Union won the CIAA championship after Virginia State had been going 7. It was undefeated for most of the season. Lost the last 2 games, if I'm not mistaken.
2 of the last 3, I think.
2 of the last 3.
Yeah.
So interesting. Then you have FAMU doing their thing. North Carolina Central, I know, was up there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with our poll this week.
Yeah, that's a good question. I asked that question: how far down will North Carolina Central drop? That's a serious question. How far? Yeah, now I'm a voter. You're a voter. How far would you drop them? They're number 2 on my personal ballot going into the week. And I'll be honest. After what just happened today, I don't think I'm moving them off number 2. To be honest, that's just me.
That's good. I was going to say, I don't know. So there's so many different polls, and this is what I love about the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. There's more polls. We have our poll, but then I know with me working with UrbanMediaToday.com, they have a poll. I know that Bryan has his personal poll, and then Dr. Cavill has his poll as well, and then BCSN, you all have a poll, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So there's all these different polls, and they're still under one umbrella as far as us working together. That's why I think it would be intriguing for your listeners to definitely check out the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. Bryan, that's a great point that you brought up. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. I have yet to decide on how far I would move North Carolina Central. My concern is how far do I move Howard? How far up does Howard go? Now, that being said as well, and I'm going to put this out there. I was talking to a sports information director, and we talked about North Carolina Central being ranked 7th nationally on the FCS level. And we brought up the point that usually the HBCUs don't get the respect they deserve. And it's interesting to see North Carolina Central ranked so high, and that's the highest that they've ever been ranked on the FCS level in program history. I'm looking to see how much disrespect may be given to them since they lost 50-20 to Howard University, and see how far they may fall on the FCS national poll. And the reason I bring that up is because that's where playoff implications come into play. Let's say they don't go to the Celebration Bowl. Will they still get a bid in the FCS playoffs? And I think that they should if they don't go to the Celebration Bowl, without question.
I agree.
Central has a good enough resume, especially with all those non-conference wins that they have on the FCS level, to be in the FCS playoffs.
You and I see that, but in the past, the track record has been the only team they lost to other than Howard was UCLA, 59-7.
Exactly. So if Central winds up somewhere in the high teens on the final poll, it would be a travesty for them not to get into the FCS playoffs should Howard win out and get the Celebration Bowl bid. I'll go and publicly say that it would be a travesty for them not to get in with their resume.
Let me throw one more thing in there for you gentlemen to think about. Wouldn't it be, and this is me, wish list, it would be interesting and awesome to see Howard and FAMU face off in the Celebration Bowl. Former MEAC teams going at it in the Celebration Bowl.
What?
I'm throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there.
I know Mr. Grant is watching the show. That's a dream. That's a dream ticket right there, Mr. Grant. You know, I know North Carolina Central will bring some people, but I've heard people say Howard doesn't travel. No,
they will travel.
Howard does events, and that, ladies and gentlemen, there is no bigger event on the Black College HBCU calendar than the Celebration Bowl. So you tell me Howard and FAMU, the Northeast quadrant of America, is going to be flooding into Atlanta? Get out of here.
I'm going out on the line, Bryan and A.D, and I'm calling it. My prediction is FAMU. And SWAC people, please don't get mad at me. But I'm just saying for Trevin A. Jones, I'm just calling that one. FAMU Howard Celebration Bowl, December 16th.
All right. Well,
can I add something to that?
Twitter. There's Trevin's Twitter handle right there at ISO.
So you really put me out there.
You can go hit Trevin up and let him know your thoughts on that one. Those of you who are, SWAC Nation. Anyway,
I gotta add this in on that, Trevin, along those lines. Wouldn't it be ironic that it would take a former MEAC team to represent the SWAC for the SWAC to win the doggone Celebration Bowl?
And before you go to my Twitter handle, AD said that. I didn't, but just that you know.
No. We trust. We know. We have been telling. We've been telling SWAC Nation that's what it's going to take for the longest. So we just got to come through and on our end of the deal. But we've been telling SWAC Nation that that's how y'all going to get that first win, or I'm sorry, that second win is, and in this long streak, it's going to take somebody like us who knows how to deal. I'm just saying, I've already, it is what it is, Trevin. There's no, the waters are muddy, and we just going to continue to kick them up. So it is what it is.
I love everybody on the HBCU platform. I don't want SWAC fans hating me or calling me out, talking about I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll let you and AD have that. But my personal prediction is FAMU and Howard in the Celebration.
All right. Again, you guys make sure to check out Trevin. Check out Urban Media Today as well. UrbanMediaToday.com is where you can find him. You can find him right there. There's his X Twitter handle. And make sure to check out Saturday's broadcast. Now, again, Mr. Grant jumped in and said that right now it's Morgan and Howard at 1 o'clock and Dale State versus Central at 2 p.m. Mr. Grant, you need to go ahead and get those times changed. Let's go work on getting those times changed and flip that. Somehow the Howard-Morgan game needs to be the second game and not the first game. That's just my personal opinion. It is what it is, but let's make for some interesting, dramatic television on Saturday.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, see, that works for Mr. Grant, because should Howard lose that game, he can get on that private jet and still make it to Durham to give out the invitation. Spend that hour time, spend that hour split.
Mr. Grant, they said it. I didn't have nothing to do with it.
Drew is just so messy, man. Okay. Hey, Trevin, man, we appreciate your time tonight. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, brothers. Thank you for the awesome job that you all do. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, man. Be well. We'll talk soon.
Definitely.
All right, Trevin Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do this. Let's take a short break. Come back. Plenty more to talk about. We've already seen the chaos in the West, in the SWAC West, as a result of Texas Southern just mollywopping, curb stomping Alcorn 44-10. So now, as if the West is already, we were just kind of thinking about what it would look like and how messy it could be. Well, yeah, guess what we get again for the last week. I can't say it's the last week of the SWAC regular season, but void of the Bayou Classic, SWAC champion in the West will be crowned next week. I think, hold that thought as we break down those scenarios and more right after this break. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network with Bryan and A.D. We'll be back in just a moment.
Supermarket sushi, really? No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. I was just in the middle of typing, sending the text. How's the drive going for you, Drew, right now?
Drive's going excellent, my brother. Drive is going excellent. I might be home by the time this podcast is.
So just to update people, okay, on this past, actually just all of about an hour ago, Alcorn State, who came into the weekend with a half-game lead over Prairie View, well, I should say a one-game lead over Prairie View, with a 5-1 record to Prairie View's 4-2. And then, of course, you had the game on Saturday. You had Prairie View versus Southern, in which Prairie View had to rally to win by a score of 27-21, I believe it was. Prairie View is now 5-2. Southern drops to 4-3. Grambling defeated UAPB, so they improved to 4-3. Both Southern and Grambling sitting at 5-5 overall, 4-3. Interesting enough, I've heard people talk about, well, let's just say a few people I've heard call it a U-Haul game, which I find kind of hilarious. Drew, are you back? Lost you there.
Damn, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can. What I was just saying is I was just going through the scenarios here of going into the day. And then obviously today, because of the game being moved to Sunday, Texas Southern hosting Alcorn State, game got moved to Sunday from Saturday. So Alcorn had a chance to watch Prairie View win. And so it meant that Alcorn couldn't win the SWAC West because they needed Southern to actually win and then beat Texas Southern as well. But Texas Southern finally caught somebody. I know a lot of people have been saying this for a minute. Ooh, Texas Southern's going to catch somebody. Who they going to catch? Well, they caught Alcorn is what they did. Alcorn, who had won 5 in a row, 6 of the last 7, 44-10. And now you have a situation where Alcorn and Prairie View are tied at 5-2 in the SWAC West. Prairie View owns the tiebreaker by virtue of beating Alcorn by a field goal at the end of the ball game. But, and here's the big but, it's not as easy for these two teams coming up this weekend because they are playing, arguably, after FAMU, the next two toughest teams from the SWAC East this coming Saturday. Prairie View's taking on their rival, Jackson State. Alcorn State is hosting. Are they hosting or traveling? I'm not really sure. Let me look here. Alcorn is at Jackson State. Prairie View. Yeah, Prairie View is hosting Alabama State. So, not easy games. You could have a scenario where should Alcorn and Prairie View lose, they would each have 3 losses and go to 5-3. Then you'd have the case of the winner of the Bayou, Southern and Grambling, would move to 5-3. And at that point, I don't know what the scenarios are, but somebody out of that game could have a shot at advancing. I don't know. Somebody on the chat, if you've done the tie-breaking scenarios or thought about the tie-breaking scenarios already.
Well, Brian, if you just think about it, in a 3-way tie, Southern lost to both of those teams.
Oh, didn't it?
And I'm going off the top of my head. I believe Southern lost to both of those teams.
Look, the only reason we're bringing this up is because we see what happened in the SIAC. We're seeing what's happening right now in MEAC. It's a possibility. So, if Southern wins, then it comes back to probably Alcorn and Prairie View, in which seems like Prairie View has the time. But
Hey, Brian, I don't know if it's because I'm traveling or your cord, but you're cutting in and out on me.
it might be your cord. It might be your cord, unless I see something.
That is, you sound so much clearer now.
Yeah, it might be. You're the one traveling, so we're gonna blame you. Can
you repeat what you said though?
All right, now Jimmy Mack said it's me. All right, thanks, Jimmy. Curse you. All right, what I was saying is, in the scenario where Southern beats Grambling, it looks like Prairie View would go back to being the representative because they would have the tiebreaker over Alcorn and Southern. But if Grambling were to win,
that's when it gets fun.
That's where it gets fun because Grambling beat Prairie View, but they lost to Alcorn.
Right.
And you know what's funny? It goes back. Remember about 4 weeks ago, I did that little comparative, that almost an AAU style chart, where I kind of looked at Alcorn, Prairie View, and Grambling.
Yeah.
And you know who came out on top in that scenario?
Who was that?
Now that was by point differential. Now I don't know if the SWAC is doing all that, but
no, I think they go with record against next best.
Well, is that Southern?
Would probably be.
Okay.
But the question is, with the common opponent, is it next best in their division, or next best was there an East opponent that they all played? Was there a common East opponent?
No,
I'm just curious.
Let me see. Alcorn has not played. Wow. Okay, that's a longer breakdown. Somebody do the math here. Somebody in the chat room do a breakdown on what the potential tiebreak scenarios are. Maybe even somebody can find it. But it does make for an interesting scenario, and I think people just like Chip 4029 said, you can see both Prairie View and Alcorn losing next week.
Realistically, you can.
Realistically, you can. After what we just saw, yeah, you could see them both losing. So Lawrence said it goes by record in the division.
But the record in the division would all be the same.
No, not necessarily, will it?
No, yeah, that would be conference record. Yeah, divisional record. After head-to-head.
Prairie View. Okay. Hold on, let me see. We're trying to. Are we gonna do the math here? Let me see. Who's Prairie View played from the East? Prairie View on the East has played Alabama State.
FAMU.
Wait a minute. Who did I say?
Alabama State.
Hold on. Stop. I'm on Alcorn. Alcorn has played Alabama State, which they won. Valley, which they won. And this Jackson State game will matter. So if they end up losing to Jackson State,
they would be 2-1.
They'd be 2-1.
So that would be, they would be 3. They would be 3-2 in division.
Prairie View would be eliminated because they would have, if they lose to Alabama State, they've already lost to FAMU. So that's 2 losses to the East.
Who was the third team?
Valley.
So actually, yeah, they would still be 3-2 in the division.
I thought you said out of division because
no, it goes in division first, in division record.
All right, here we go. Lawrence is breaking it down for us. Lawrence says Grambling is 3-1 in division. That's currently. Southern is 2-2 in division.
So if Grambling wins, Grambling will get the tiebreak based on division record.
It sounds like it. It sounds like
that would make them 4-1 in division.
Yeah, it sounds like if again, the big if is, no, let's see, hold on. And he says Prairie View is 4-1 in division. So then it would come down to Grambling and Prairie View. Jesus, what's the next level of tiebreaking scenario?
It goes back to head-to-head at that point.
In which Grambling beat Prairie View. Yeah, so it would go to Grambling. All right, we'll that'll be interesting.
Once you eliminate a team, then you go back to head-to-head.
Right. So, all right, so that'll be interesting to see how that all breaks down. I got to give props again one final time. Had to show that again. Obviously, the internet never fails. 50 points. Whoever did that, I mean, just genius. The massacre, just genius. I had to show that. All right, moving forward though, let's kind of talk about real quick 2 teams that are going on that are advancing past their championship games.
Let's talk some winners.
Yeah, let's talk about some winners. First off, we got those guys, Virginia Union. Virginia Union, winners of the CIAA championship by virtue of their 21-10 victory over Fayetteville State. Their first title in 22 years. Union finishes the regular season 10-1. Winning 7 games in a row. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead on Fayetteville State off the backs of Jada Byers scoring a touchdown. Later, they also scored. Christian Reed scored to go up 14-0. Fayetteville ended up finding a way to score late in the, as I pull up the box score here, with about 47 seconds remaining off of a kickoff return following that second Virginia Union touchdown. So just when Virginia Union was starting to get comfortable, they go from up 14-0 to a 14-7. A 91-yard kickoff return by by Barry Elliott, makes it a 14-7 game. Not sure if people gave Fayetteville State much of an opportunity at that point. Fayetteville State did kick a 20-yard field goal with 11:57 in the third quarter at the end of a 7-play, 70-yard drive to cut the deficit to 14-10. But back came Union with a 16-yard touchdown run by Jada Byers, capping off a 5-play, 27-yard drive with 7:25 remaining in the third quarter to go up 21-10. And that's pretty much how it stayed through the ball game. So, again, the rematch, as we talked about, Drew, of course, the first time these teams met, Fayetteville won 10-7 in a hurricane, as you so appropriately called it. And this time it goes Union's way. Jeff Roberts was in the house, enjoyed his trip to Salem, Virginia. Good to see that it didn't disappoint the experience. All right, so what does that mean for Virginia Union in the playoffs, Drew? Well, playoff seeding just came out maybe about an hour ago. And what was Virginia Union's ranking in the South region prior to the championship game?
They don't actually release these. Prior to the championship game, they were 6, I believe.
Okay.
6 or 7. And
so
Fayetteville State was 5.
Okay, so there was a belief that either way, whoever was coming out of this was going to actually end up winning or earning a spot, Fayetteville or Virginia Union, one or the other, right? Just didn't think didn't know where it would be. We were thinking it would be in Region 2 where they were last year, which is the South region, but instead they end up in Region 1, which is the Northeast region. And Virginia Union, the NCAA committee can move a team from one region to another.
If they are an at-large.
If they are an at-large, right. Jimmy Mack asked, why isn't Virginia Union hosting? Drew, you want to explain that to him?
They were not one of the top 4 seeds. Seeds 1 through 4 host. Seeds 5 through 7 are considered at large, and that's what allows the committee to exercise their right to move them to another region for travel purposes. Right. And geographically, this region is a lot closer for Virginia Union than they would have gone had they stayed in Super Region 2, because they would have possibly been shipped to either Mississippi or Florida to play.
Yeah. So Kutztown, who was the 3 seed, actually defeated the 4 seed team, Slippery Rock, in the PSAC. I think that's the Pennsylvania
PSAC.
Yeah, the PSAC. They defeated them. So you have 2 teams, the 3 and the 4 seed, that are from the same conference. As you can see, that was Slippery Rock's first loss of the season, losing in the championship game to Kutztown. So Kutztown in Pennsylvania is where Virginia Union will travel. Now, I haven't done a quick GPS yet, but if somebody in the chats want to tell me how far is it from Richmond to Kutztown, Pennsylvania, because that is where they will have to travel to. Also of note, the Charleston, West Virginia team, that's the 2 seed, that's the same conference that West Virginia State plays in, which what conference is that? That's the
Mountain East.
Mountain East. Yeah, thank you. Mountain East. So as you can see, Union, will probably have to travel anywhere from Pennsylvania if they win that contest to probably Charleston, West Virginia for a regional semifinal contest. Got to take care of business first in the first game, but they will be taking on Kutztown, PA.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to point out there about those teams in that Region 1, Drew?
No, a lot of things wound up shifting throughout the Division II playoff projections this past weekend because, count them, 11 of the top 25 teams lost their last game.
Wow. 11 of the top 25.
Yes. Almost 50%.
Okay, so that could be why you see the shakeup there. From there. Okay, Jimmy Mack says from Richmond to Kutztown, PA, 4 hours and 27 minutes, 274 miles. So that's
doable.
Yeah, that's definitely doable for that good contingent of 15,000 people who were there. Who were at Hovey Field for that Virginia Union game. That's a great opportunity for Panther Nation to travel. We'll have to kind of look into the stats and kind of figure out what type of team Kutztown is, and kind of see what that might look like. Any other final thoughts there for Fayetteville? Let me ask. Well, hold on. Let's talk the SIAC champion first, and then we can talk about that next thing involving what Fayetteville State's season may or may not be. All right, moving over to the other side, over in the SIAC. That man right there, Chinnis Berry, hosting that SIAC championship trophy for the second consecutive season. Benedict defeats Albany State 47-10. Second consecutive 11-0 regular season for Benedict. The first time that has been done by an HBCU at any level since Winston-Salem State did it back in 2011 and 2012. If you remember those two teams went perfect in the regular season conference championship. The 2011 team went all the way to the national semifinal. The 2012 team went to the championship game. So those
are Connell Maynard-led teams.
Connell Maynard-led teams, definitely. But still a great moment there for Coach Berry and Benedict College. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Coach Gray and Albany State for getting to that championship game, but they were just a little overmatched, wouldn't you say?
A little.
Yeah, well,
they didn't pick up a first down until about 2 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Yeah, well, just a little overmatched. All right, so what does that mean for Benedict? What we do know is that Benedict is the #1 seed in the Region 2, which is the South. Similar spot as to where they were last year. They earned a bye, and they will host a game on December 2nd. November 25th. Thank you. I had to correct myself. The first round of the playoffs is this Saturday, November 18th. That's when Virginia Union will play. The semifinals begin on the 25th. And they will take on the winner of Lenoir-Rhyne and Shepherd. Lenoir-Rhyne has been in the playoff. They are a consistent staple in the playoffs. And then you can see kind of on the other side, Delta State versus West Florida, Valdosta State versus Limestone. Anything you want to add there regarding these teams in the Region 2, Drew?
Limestone appears to be the team that jumped Fayetteville State. First of all, going back and looking at the projections, Fayetteville State, both of them had 8-3 records, 8-3 within Division II and within the region. But, and I talked about this morning on Dr. Gavia's Inside the HBCU SportsWrap. You know, maybe there was a little bit of SAC bias that put Limestone in. Also, let's be real. The 3 HBCUs who made it in last year laid an egg once they made it in. And Limestone has a proven playoff record. So maybe the committee went with a team that they were more familiar with by choosing Limestone. Shippensburg is the team that was switched with Virginia Union and shipped to Super Region 2 for those who are curious about which team actually replaced Virginia Union in Region 2, and I believe Shippensburg is in there with West Virginia State in the Mountain East Conference. So, yeah. What's going to be interesting, the Delta State-West Florida matchup, and I don't think there was a way to avoid that one because the committee normally doesn't go with conference rematches on the first round. I would have to look and see if those two actually played each other because there's like 1 or 2 Gulf South teams who do not play each other as part of their regular cycle of games. So that would be interesting if that's why they chose that particular matchup for the at-large.
They did actually play each other.
Okay.
And West Florida won at Delta State 24-21. So, and it does set up an interesting matchup where, so what it is you get 3 teams from out of the GSAC. That's Delta State, West Florida, and Valdosta State. Where is Shepherd from? Shepherd is from
That's the Mountain East team that replaced Virginia Union.
Okay, that's okay. Shepherd. Okay, and then you have Lenore Rhine and Limestone from the
SAC.
SAC. Okay. Yeah. So what it sets up is an interesting scenario where the winner of Delta State West Florida potentially could be playing a conference opponent, Valdosta State. So that whole bracket, the whole bottom half of that bracket is just, GSC heavy.
It's set up for a GSC team to be in the final.
It is. Yes, it is. And then, of course, you have Benedict and facing it. And this is where the success of previous years matters. We've talked about this in various different times and places and shows. It's important for Benedict to win their semifinal game. It is. To get an opportunity to play in the next round. And even, hey, I would love to see Benedict come out of the region. It's going to be challenging. But hopefully this team learned from the experience of a year ago. Hopefully the coaching staff learned how to manage the roster, especially with the holiday break coming up, so that, they truly are ready to go after the bye week.
Thanksgiving dinner needs to be this Saturday. Like, get together, watch your opponent, watch the game, have your Thanksgiving dinner, and then go through your regular routine starting on Sunday.
Yeah. I agree. All right. So that brings up the interesting scenario after those two teams about Drew, the Beach Bowl that that bowl game that's scheduled for. I gotta look to see if I can find it here.
December 13th, I believe, is the date. Wednesday, December 13th.
Okay, between the SIC and the CIAA. The question is, the Florida Beach Bowl is the name of the bowl game. Who makes for the best draw? Because, and I do want to point this out because I've heard people mention this, right? All these bowl games, there are so many bowl games that are played during the week. These bowl games are really meant for the community and the alumni fan base. You know, it's unique, it's new for the HBCU market, but for college athletics in general, it's not new. So, you know, would they have, I don't know why they didn't play this game on the weekend, so let's not go there with that. I do know they probably didn't want to compete with the Celebration Bowl. I bet you anything there's something to that. You didn't want to play that weekend against the Celebration Bowl.
I would have played on Sunday.
Well, you know, if you can,
or even the following Monday.
I would have played Friday because the Florida State high school championships are over, and you're not competing. You don't have to compete with the NFL on Sunday.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll worry. That's the next year problem. This year is which two teams make the best sense, which makes the best draw. The interesting matchup.
But I'll start with the CIAA. Your top three candidates are Virginia State,
yep,
Fayetteville State, and
yep,
Johnson C. Smith.
Right.
You know, in the SIAC, your top three candidates: Tuskegee, Miles, and Edward Waters. Now,
you don't think Allen?
Okay. I jumped Edward Waters over Allen due to geography.
Okay, I follow. Makes sense.
Yes, that's why. It's not that Allen is not deserving, but geographically, I think Edward Waters would be my third. Would be in the triumvirate.
Gotcha.
Now, if I were Beach Bowl and I need to send an invitation out in the morning, which they probably already sent invitations out, but if I was sending invitations out, my first draft choice out of the CIAA would be Virginia State.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
My top draft choice out of the SIAC would be Tuskegee.
Sure.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Tuskegee, Virginia State. For some reason, I don't know why, but that's an intriguing matchup among people in HBCU land because of the tradition of those two programs, and both fan bases tend to travel very, very well. So that would be my top choice if I was down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, trying to figure out which teams to pull from. My number two combination in the CIAA, I probably go with Fayetteville State, and in the SIAC, I go with Edward Waters, purely on geography with Edward Waters, because Miles is probably the more deserving team, but on the geography, you got to pull Edward Waters in, because there is some Edward Waters. There's a good Edward Waters base down in that Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Florida area.
Jamie Walker chimes in, thinking Edward Waters versus Virginia State would be tremendous. I
can't disagree with it.
No, I can't disagree. I think having Edward Ward, but I think somehow leaving. I feel Lawrence and what he said about Miles. Miles, if I'm going to put Virginia State out there,
I think Miles is the best team out of the SIAC. If you're just talking about best competitive team, Miles is the best of those three. Hands down.
Right. So yeah, and Miles and Tuskegee both coming out of Alabama. You know, no disrespect to Tuskegee Nation. I would go with Miles.
Watch your mouth, Brian.
I'm just saying. They, you know, who won that game between the two? So I mean, I've got that on top of just the fact that Miles could make an argument best team in the state of Alabama, best HBCU team in the state of Alabama. Maybe
Alabama State's gonna give you a tough argument right now with the way they've been playing the last 6 weeks.
Yes, tough argument. Chip says, I like Tuskegee, but I don't want to see that defense anymore this season.
I cannot disagree with you, Chip.
Oh, man, that's funny. Jamie chimes in again. His second choice would be Tuskegee and Johnson C. Smith. Johnson C. Smith.
I like that one.
I do like that.
Yes.
Give me Edward Waters and from a historical standpoint. How about this? Johnson C. Smith versus Edward Waters. Edward Waters being the first HBCU in the state of Florida. Johnson C. Smith being the first, being a part of the first HBCU football game. I think from a and both, I think both have had great seasons. I think that would be an interesting matchup. So if I'm just going to go completely off of my Miles Virginia State, I'm going with that matchup. I think that would be, and then you could play up to the community, the historical significance of both universities and what they mean not only to the state of Florida, but to HBCU football in general. I think that's worth talking about as well. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break, come back with a little bit more here while we got some time. We're not going to be here too much longer here on the show. So let's take a short break, come back, and maybe break down these scenarios. Well, we did break down the scenarios. Let's see what meat we left on the bone regarding the SWAC and just some of the other games that happened over the weekend. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only
Mobile Cigar Lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. Welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford here on video. A.D. Drew in his car driving through the dark highways of Alabama and Georgia, somewhere in there. Sounded like you wanted to jump in with a nugget or a note about something, Drew, before we went to break.
Brian, that was a whole break ago. I don't remember what we were talking about before the break.
Oh my goodness, Drew. All right.
Oh, I know what it was.
Yeah.
I want to see how well we need to cry over these picks that we did last week before we get out of here. Also,
do you even recall what those picks were? Because I don't know. I don't think I recorded them, to be honest, Drew. I've gotten real bad about that here. I think once we missed that 1 week, I think everything went to pot from there, and I
know we got the Central Howard game wrong. We got we both had Benedict.
Yep.
We both had Virginia Union.
Yep.
What was our SWAC game? I think we both got wrong because I think we both had Alcorn PV for the SWAC game, and we both picked Alcorn. We both picked Central, and you were one up on me because I picked Florida Memorial, you picked Kaiser, so you actually got.
Okay. Our chat group just dropped some info here on how Grambling can win the West, which pretty much falls in line with what we talked about. I'm just trying to figure it out here, and I just want to cite the source on where this came from. So maybe if we've got time, I'll mention that. Let me go through a few questions here in the chat room. Let's see. Lawrence asks, if Benedict and Virginia Union lose the playoff game, does the winner of the bowl game become lower division national champion?
Hell no.
No, I don't think that's how it works, Lawrence. I don't think that's how it works. I think there's something to being the conference champion. I think it is an interesting question is what will separate Benedict and Virginia Union, though. Obviously, if Virginia Union wins, say their opening round game, and then they both lose in the semis, Benedict would have one loss.
Benedict would be 11-1. Union would be 11-2 at that point.
Yeah, I think in order for Virginia Union to probably win,
they've got to go one round further.
They got to go one round further than Benedict goes. I think that's how that would have to work.
And as far as the Beach Bowl goes, you know that consolation game that people have in some of these AAU tournaments, Brian?
Yes.
That's what the Beach Bowl is. It's a third place game.
Yeah, consolation.
At best, in any poll, the winner of the Beach Bowl finishes third, and I said at best.
Jeff Roberts asked, are the Orange Blossom Classic folks involved in this bowl game? I do not believe they are. I didn't look into that, Jeff. I'm trying to just kind of glance here at the website and see if I see anything that might are. I would be surprised, though, Jeff, if they've been to the Orange Blossom Classic and done some consulting or maybe got some tips from the folks at the OBC. Now, speaking of the OBC, Drew, you might find this interesting. I have learned who I think the two opponents are for next year. Now, this is unofficial, and I'm going to be very vague, but I'm not going to be vague. I'm going to be vague, but not vague. So as to not put it out there and let you guys who are watching and listening kind of figure it out on your own. My sources tell me that it involves a MEAC school and a SWAC school. The SWAC school is, I want to be, how do I want to be careful about this? The SWAC school is from the West Division. And the MEAC school has won a conference championship in the last, or post-COVID. I was almost going to give states. I was going to give states, but I think if I gave states, you'd figure it out.
Yeah. Well, the MEAC school is real easy because we know they come from the Carolinas, so you got a 50% chance on that. So we'll just leave that right there. I mean, when you said they won a SWAC championship post-COVID, both of them came from the Carolinas.
Well, hey, that's all I'm going to say for this week. Maybe I'll release, maybe I'll give another hint next week's show. You got to come back to find out. Again, this is unofficial, so until it's formally announced, but at least that's what my sources are telling me.
Since we put potential games out there, can I put one out, Brian, that will upset me if it happens?
Yes. Yeah, and then I'm going to read this question here from EA. Go ahead.
I've been told that one of FAMU's games may be moving off campus after the big stink of getting out of the OBC because they wanted more games on campus.
Wait a minute. Repeat that again.
I've had a source that's told me that maybe one of FAMU's games may be moving off campus after making the big stink about having more games on campus.
Right.
I'm just going to leave that there.
Because right now, my understanding is there's only four games. Yeah.
There may only be 3. And I'll leave that right there.
I can't see that. That would be interesting. I don't think there's ever been a year where FAMU had less than 4, but it's not unprecedented. Didn't somebody this year in the SWAC have 3?
I would have to look back. Hell, Morehouse had 2.
Well, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, I was thinking that. Interesting question here from EA. If both Prairie View and Alcorn lose, it would create tremendous pressure on the SWAC, FAMU, and Tallahassee because tickets will be held up for purchase until that Monday after Thanksgiving, possible affecting attendance.
Why would tickets be held up? The home team should go ahead and get their allotment, though, wouldn't they? Wouldn't you think?
I would think so. I would think
you would hold. You would make sure there's enough of an allotment, because with that being a neutral site, there should be a 50-50 allotment.
There should be a 50-50 allotment up to a certain point. And that's one of the things I've been trying to kind of find out from the SWAC. I've reached out, to Andrew Roberts and trying to get Dr. McClellan on the show to kind of find out how the ticket scenarios are going to work out. Do the schools get 40% each and then like a 10% goes into the general pot, or I'm sorry, at that point it'd be 20%, which I think would seem to make the most sense to me. Like each school would sell 40%, then you have 20 that goes into sort of a general conference pot for them to sell or do. And then after a certain time period, then let's just say the road team doesn't sell all theirs, then it becomes back into the general market. I'd love to know how that's done, but again, that's just me thinking here. Now, what I think is interesting though for Florida A&M people is to watch what the attendance looks like at this weekend's Florida Classic, which is in Orlando, because many traveling Rattlers may opt to pass on the Florida Classic and try to score tickets to the SWAC championship game, or even hedge their bets and go one step further for the Celebration Bowl. Because look,
I was gonna say, if I was hedging my wallet, I go to the OBC when it comes to hotel prices.
Yeah, in terms of who's going to have the best hotel prices, it's definitely going to be in Orlando. But there's still places in Atlanta that have good hotel prices, and I think Atlanta's a big enough city that I don't think you're going to be. I don't think the city is. I don't think you don't stay
downtown.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think the event is big enough to push ticket prices on the outskirts of Atlanta, and I think Atlanta's big enough to deal with you staying on the outskirts of downtown to go to the Celebration Bowl. So it's the Tallahassee market that is going to cost some people.
Yeah. Hey, if you go into the Celebration Bowl, let me give you another hint. Stay by the airport.
Wait a minute, offer that
better hotel rates, and you can hop on the water to get downtown. Stay by the airport. Better hotel rates, and you can hop on the water to get downtown in 15 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, I know a lot of you are chatting about the ticket situation. Unfortunately, yeah, none of it has been kind of released, so we don't know what to expect from the ticket situation. All right, Drew, I want to take a minute and pivot off of football because there's a couple other, I think, interesting. We're in that point of the season where the sports calendar gets heavy. So if you don't mind, I think I want to make mention of a couple things regarding volleyball and basketball. And I mention that because volleyball is coming to an end and basketball is just starting, meaning coming to the end, meaning both the MEAC and the SWAC are having their conference tournaments this upcoming weekend. I think the Division IIs are having theirs as well. I know I saw the GCAC have theirs over the weekend. But just to let people know, for the MEAC, let's see, how many teams are in the volleyball? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so all 8 go in. The number 1 seed in the MEAC bracket, which I actually do have that pulled up here. The number 1 seed is Coppin State with a 24-4 overall record, 13-1 conference record. They are the 1 seed. The volleyball tournament is I believe it's at Delaware State. I think, yeah, Dover, Delaware. Delaware State is the host for the MEAC championship. Begins Friday night. That's November 17th. Howard is the 2 seed. They were 11-3 in conference play, 15-3 overall. Delaware State, who's the host, is the 3 seed, 9-5 overall, 16-12 overall, 9-5 in conference, 16-12 overall. Maryland Eastern Shore is the 4 seed. They are 8-6, 15-11 overall. The bottom 4 seeds, Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Morgan State, South Carolina State, all finished below 500 in their overall record. So, as you guys, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can kind of see what that bracket kind of looks like. Over for the SWAC ended their schedule. Alabama State finished conference play perfect, 16-0. I don't know when the last time that has been done. Drew, did anybody mention when the last time somebody went perfect in women's volleyball? I know FAMU came close the last couple of years, but I think they had at least 1 loss each of the last 2 seasons in conference play.
No, I don't know when that occurred, Brian.
All right. The women's volleyball tournament for the SWAC is held at Prairie View. Prairie View A&M is hosting. And again, Alabama State, 16 in a row. Now get this. Alabama State went 1-12 in the non-conference. Then they started with a win over Florida A&M in conference play, and then proceeded to win the next 15 games. And so they have won 16 in a row, finishing a perfect 16-0. Real interesting how that worked out. Prairie View, the host school, finishes as the 2 seed. They finished the conference 13-3, 18-12 overall. They've won their last 5 games. Florida A&M, the 2-time defending SWAC champions, they finished 12-4 in the conference, 16-13 overall. They have won their last 6 in a row. Just in case you were curious, Florida A&M's 4 losses, 2 of them came to Alabama State. 1 of them came to Texas Southern, and the other came to Alabama A&M. Both of those last 2 games came with FAMU leading 2-0, and they ended up losing 3-2. Alabama A&M comes in as the 4 seed, 11-5 in conference play, 12-18 overall. They've won their last 2. So the only 3 volleyball clubs that have positive 500 records are Alabama State, Prairie View, FAMU. Teams 5, 6, 7, and 8, and only the top 8 make it to the tournament. Jackson State is the 5 seed. They were 10-6 in conference play. Texas Southern, the 6 seed, they were 8-8. Grambling State, the 7 seed, They were 7-8. Bethune-Cookman rounds out with a 7-9 record. And actually, there may be some games going on today, so I don't know. I see Southern. If Southern has a 6-9 record, there's a game that's missing. So Southern may actually be playing somebody today, and it hasn't been recorded. So I don't know if Southern or Bethune-Cookman, one of those two is going to be the 8 seed. So that's what that matchup will be over in the SWAC volleyball. SWAC volleyball tournament starts Friday, November 7th as well. Good to see you there, Mama Body. Miss Body, come in. Yes, chaos. Y'all know how to do things over there in Texas Southern, boy. Chaos over in the SWAC West. Yeah, boy. Good point, Edwin. Prairie View hosting volleyball, soccer, and track and field. They got good facilities, I guess. They put the bid in. So props to Prairie View for being on their facilities game. Looks like I got Drew back in. Drew, you back? Yeah, your signal's a little bad. I can't hear you very well.
All right, how about now?
You're good. You're good. Okay, I was just finishing up the volleyball. I wanted to transition over to basketball for a second, Drew. Obviously, the first week of the basketball season kicked in. I want to make a note of a few teams over on the men and women's side. On the men's side, I got to say probably the upset of the week, or the win of the week, belongs to Southern University. On Wednesday. Hold on a second. I think Drew's trying to do something here. Hold on. All right, Drew, I got you now.
Yeah.
Okay, something happened where there's a little feedback. Okay, the team of the week in men's basketball has got to be Southern University. On Wednesday, Southern traveled to UNLV, Nevada, Las Vegas, to the Thomas and Mack Center, and they defeated UNLV 85-71. Southern was a 21.5 point underdog. 25-1 is what I believe the odds were of Southern. So if you were a Southern backer and you felt really confident about your team, and you put, I don't know, let's say you put $100 down on Southern, you would have walked home with $2,500. That's pretty impressive. Southern led 40-21 at the half. Southern shot 11 of 21. That's 61% from the three-point arc. I hope I'm saying this name right. Tyrion Joseph scored 22 points to lead Southern. And, one of the biggest things that I noticed in these early season contests, especially where the HBCUs are matched up against what I'll say Power 6 opponents, is that the 3-point shooting. What key stats you can always look at: 3-point shooting, whether it be the other team or the HBCU team. Turnovers. Those things always seem to matter. And usually if you're getting turned over more than your opponent, that's not a good recipe for winning a ball game. And then points in the paint. Let's see. Points in the paint. That's another statistic here that you can always look at and see if are you being out-rebounded? Are you giving up more points in the paint than your opponent? All right, Jude, I got you now. You're a little staticky. Sounds like we're listening to a record that's about to kick in. All right, so I'm gonna come back to Drew in a second as we try to get the turntables squared away with that audio situation by Drew. Drew, hit me in the chat if you can once you think you've got your audio situation figured out. Let me go over to the women's side. The team of the week on the women's side has got to be the Norfolk State Lady Spartans. They went 3-0, winning their third game today. Back on Monday, the Spartans defeated William and Mary 66-64. That was a game in which Kiara Wheeler, a junior forward, she led Norfolk State with 17.7 rebounds. And here's a key stat again. Remember, I went back and talked about turnovers, right? Norfolk State had 19 turnovers, but William and Mary had 24, and Norfolk State had 13 steals off those 24 turnovers by William and Mary. Norfolk State, one of the best defensive teams in women's basketball. I'm just going to let y'all know that. That's fact. And I watched them today against Radford. They play great defense. So if you get a chance to watch Norfolk State women, that is a great team. That is a good team, well coached. Of course, they're the defending MEAC champions. All right, Drew, you back now?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. A bit of an echo, but the other game that Norfolk State better. Norfolk State followed up Monday's win on Wednesday, knocking off another CAA team. This time they beat Drexel 51-49. Kiara Wheeler turned in another good performance, scoring 15 and 9. And then, of course, as mentioned today, Norfolk State put the offensive game together with their defense, and they beat Radford 70-44. DeBria Clark, a freshman guard, scored a team-high 16 points with 7 rebounds off the bench. And again, Norfolk State is now 3-0, all on the road, all 3 road wins. So shout out to Norfolk State, again, defending MEAC women's champs. Another team that I got to give some props to is Howard University. Howard University men opened the week beating Hampton at home 92-80. 5 starters in double figures for Howard, led by Bryce Howard, a junior guard with 23 points, 5 rebounds. He was 8 of 12 from the field. Marcus Dockery, a junior guard, scored 21 points. He was 5 of 8 from the 3-point line. Hampton was led by Tedrick Wilcox, senior guard, scored a game-high 24 points. He was 6 of 6 from the 3-point arc, but not enough from the rest of his teammates. Howard would go to Atlanta on Thursday and nearly take out Georgia Tech at home. And I say nearly because Howard had a 47-41 lead at the half. They led by as much as 14 in the second half. And it wasn't until Georgia Tech took the lead on a 3-point shot with 2:43 to play in the game to go up by 2 that Georgia Tech overcame Howard. Offensive rebounds. Tech had plus 11 offensive rebounds and 17 more field goals. So again, I told you that key stat. Offensive rebounds, field goals. Tech plus 11 and 17 more field goals. not too much was out there. I mean, I saw, Tennessee State grab a couple wins, but they did that they beat Fisk 76-61. So that was a good game for people in the city of Nashville to get out and support. Tennessee State also beat Kentucky State 83-58. I saw Jackson State, although Jackson State lost twice this week, they had a lead at the half in both games. So Jackson State, one of those teams to really kind of pay attention to. They're going to catch one of these Power 5 teams. I feel real confident about that. Coach Mo Williams has a good group. Tomorrow, Monday night, light schedule, some games to kind of pay attention to on the men's side. Hampton will take on Norfolk State. That's at Norfolk State. UAPB will be at Central Arkansas. That's an opportunity to win a couple games. UAPB 2-1 right now after beating a pair of non-Division I opponents. And then Southern is taking on 12th ranked Arizona. They probably won't be 12th ranked on Monday because Arizona just beat Duke on Friday night. Here's just a summary of what the week was like for our HBCUs. These are a listing of the teams that the MEAC and SWAC teams played this past week. They played in the MEAC. They played number 1 Kansas, number 12 Arizona, Temple, Virginia Tech, USF, Georgia Tech, 18th ranked Texas, and Georgia. Over in the SWAC teams played 14th ranked Arkansas, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, Memphis, Minnesota, TCU, 8th ranked Creighton, Nebraska, Iowa, Colorado, California, Washington State, and Arizona State. All of those were lost by the SWAC teams. So just wanted to give you kind of an update on the first week of the basketball season, and something we're going to try to start to do as we make that slow transition from football season into basketball. All right, Drew, I don't know if you're on mute, if you want to jump back in here. Anything you want to add regarding basketball or volleyball before we maybe come back to football and get ready to close out today's show?
Yeah, just keep in mind, NAIA basketball has already started, and Division II basketball started this past weekend also. So if you're a fan of Division II or NAIA basketball, make sure you check your school's website to see how your school did. And for those of you all who are learning your coaches' bios because your football season is over with, let's get ready to hoop.
Yeah, got to give a shout out to Langston University. Langston, the Lions are preseason number 4 in the nation in the preseason top 25 NAIA coaches poll. They did get a win in their season opener. So, of course, Langston only lost 2 games last year, once in the regular season and then once in the Sweet, not the Sweet 16, but the national tournament. I always forget what they call that in the NAIA.
The round of 16.
The round of 16. Thank you. Okay, looking back on some scores again from Saturday, I'll tell you, Drew, I know we haven't talked about coaching hot seats, but the seat is getting hot in Huntsville, Alabama for Connell Maynor. I got to imagine. They lost on the road 31-14 to Bethune-Cookman. And the key stat that I saw was that A&M gave up over 400 yards on the ground. Not the one player, but to a team. And it just brings me, where was I? I asked this question out on Twitter. Of course, yeah, Southern losing at home to Prairie View 27-21. And whose seat is hotter? Eric Dooley at Southern or Connell Maynor in Huntsville?
Oh, you wrong for that question, Brian.
I'm sorry,
and I'm gonna tell you why you're wrong. we're going alphabetical order. We'll start with Alabama A&M. Coach Connell Maynor was there before athletic director Paul Bryant got there. So just the fact that the athletic director did not hire the current head football coach puts Connell Maynor on the hot seat. And Southern, with this rabid fan base, there's no in between with Coach Eric Dooley. Either people loved him or hated him when they made that hire. Well, the hates have grown more, and that's due to the product on the field because and we've got Southern people within our Black College Sports Network organization and other media, members of the media who are Southern alums. The biggest thing with Connell Maynor is the lack of adjustments, the lack of innovation, and the product just does not look good. And that Southern fan base is that Southern fan base. We'll leave it at that. So, who seat is hotter, Brian? If you had to pin me in a corner and ask me, I've got to go with Dooley. Slightly hotter than Maynor, although Maynor's situation is not pretty.
See, the smell of winning that abbreviated SWAC title in 2020, or actually the spring of 2021, is gone. They followed that season up with a 7-3 record, and that was, of course, the end of the Aquil Glass era. But the 2 years since then, and I say the reason I say this, and I mention those two names because Dooley and Maynor are similar in the fact that they're both regarded as offensive guys. And of course, Maynor, we understand, he being a former quarterback, and you feel like he should be able to get this right. He hasn't found the guy yet. I mean, it's hard to replace an Aquil Glass, okay, for starters. But they haven't been successful in replacing him. The young man Langford, the young man Casey, neither one has done enough to cement, or either Maynor is not showing enough patience, whatever it may be. The Dooley situation is interesting because you got rid of a coach who had been successful. Now, granted, he had one or two opponents that he had trouble with, but overall, he was pretty doggone successful. And so you went to the next best thing, supposedly, in going to Dooley.
And Dooley was a receiver when he played.
Right.
Talk about the offensive side.
Dooley was the guy that you all wanted. You ran out. Why can't I almost called him something else, but Norfolk State's coach. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Help me out here, Drew. Why can't I think of his name? The former coach at Southern. You ran him out of town, and so you wanted Dooley. Okay, and Yeah, Southern backdoored their way into the SWAC championship game last year. Dawson Odom, thank you. Dawson Odom. Thank you, Chuck. Okay. You backdoored your way into the SWAC championship game, but now this is all you. This is all, and I tell you the one thing that's got to be frustrating to Southern fans, Drew, and it's the thing that I really appreciate about Coach Simmons at Florida A&M. When I listen to Coach Dooley, when I'm trying to figure out how to say this nicely, he doesn't inspire me or give me confidence that the next week is going to be better than what I just saw on Saturday. Because it sounds like, and there's the level of coach speak to all of this, right? But the coach speak from Dooley really sounds repetitive and almost dismissive of what needs to change. And Edwin, yes, you said it right as I was coming out my mouth, the word dismissive. And it doesn't sell. It doesn't sell, man. You want to inspire confidence in the alumni base and the supporters? Nah, you're not doing it. You're not doing it with the same rhetoric that he's given week in and week out. If he were winning, okay, sound like that. But you're not winning. And you're not, you're losing at home. This Southern had 6 home games this year. What is Southern at home? Maybe like 2 and 4? Southern is currently 5 and 5 right now, right? Let me see. At home, lost to Jackson State. They beat Alabama A&M. Lost to Florida A&M. Beat Lincoln of California. Beat Texas Southern. Lost to, so they're 3 and 3. So you went 3 and 3 at home.
They 2 and 3, Brian. You can't count that Lincoln game.
Well, all right, but it was homecoming, so it got you whatever it got you. Okay, so whether you want to say they're 2 and 3 or 3 and 3, that's what you are at home. And yeah, Chuck said it here. The dismissiveness, I don't know.
Brian,
so
let's go back to Dooley being hired. Was Dooley really the choice, or was he just like the top free agent out there on the market? Let's not forget, it was Prairie View who allowed Dooley to become available. Let's think about that.
That's true.
Maybe there was a reason Prairie View let Dooley become available. Because Prairie View was the ones who did not offer Dooley a contract the summer before. And then, when Prairie View found themselves in the mix, Prairie View tried to come in at the last minute, at the 11th hour, and offer a new contract. Well, by that time, Dooley was probably PO'd and was like, I don't want to be here if y'all didn't think I was good enough to be here in the first place. So Dooley, technically, was a free agent.
Yeah.
And if you're Dooley, you're going to go to the best situation for yourself, which at that point in time was Southern. Southern, you're going to get the best coach that you think is out there after you dismiss your coach who was serviceable, but what wasn't quite getting you where you needed to be. So you went and got the coach who just won the SWAC West for your rival. Brian, it's almost like if you are a landlord and you got that tenant, they pay their rent, but they may pay it instead of between the 1st and the 5th, you may not get your rent until the 20th. But you're going to get your rent. That's what Dawson Olders was. You're going to get your rent. Now, you got now you don't put for rent. You got a new tenant in there, and you get your rent on time. But dang, you got to repair the refrigerator every other month. You got to fix the stove. Now you got other type of problems with this new tenant. That's what this other situation is.
And go one step further. Edwin reminds a good point here. Prairie View interviewed T.C. Taylor, right? And we all remembered how, well, I don't even know if people knew at the time, T.C. got demoted from his OC duties. Apparently, from what I heard, that I guess that bothered Coach Prime, or maybe it was the offense. I don't know. Who knows? You know, Coach Prime seems to have a thing when he doesn't like how things are going with his OC, he demotes them and moves them. So that's a thing in its own self, right? We've seen that play out in Colorado.
When your son is the quarterback, no offense to Dion, no offense to Shador, but when your daddy's the coach and your son is the quarterback, if the son don't like something, you're gonna do what you think is in your son's best interest.
Well,
and this is the second time this has happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. Good point. I almost think sometimes I remember Coach Sanders was an offensive coordinator in high school. When he was coaching him in high school, he was the OC. Maybe Coach Prime needs to go back to being the OC in college and kind of do what Willie Simmons did and say, you know what, if this is going to rest on my shoulders, I'm going to go back to being the primary play caller. So anyway, look how that has kind of played itself out. Prairie View ends up with Bubba McDowell. Jackson State ends up with T.C. Taylor. It works out so good to the point that T.C. Taylor is 7-3, and every other new coach that was hired is, I think,
underwater.
Yeah, underwater or gone, drowned, or underwater. One of the two. Gone, fired, let go. Morehouse hadn't even officially said what happened, but the coach said that they let him go. Of course, Clark, let a legend go midway through the season. So all these other new coaches this year, T.C. Taylor 7-3, makes for an interesting argument in terms of your coach of the year, whether you give it to Willie Simmons for going unbeaten in the SWAC and finally beating Southern, or do you look at T.C. Taylor, who I said he beat T.C. Taylor, but he beat Jackson State.
Yeah.
Or do you look at the fact that, and I said this, remember what I said at the very beginning of the season? I said I thought the first 4 games of the year were about as hard as you could ask for a first-year coach dealing with the drastic number of turnover that Jackson State had. And what did they end up going? 2-2.
Yeah.
And then they ran off a winning streak. And I'm of the thought that, I thought 2-2. I really thought 1-3 was likely. 2-2 would be a success, and it turned out it has been a success. It'll be interesting to see where people vote, and what they do with that. I wonder. Well, we can talk about next week's show. We can talk about our preseason or postseason awards. For that.
Speaking of postseason and preseason, Brian, I don't know if you remember the schedule matrix that we all did at the beginning of the season, when we
Yes.
determined how many games we were going to win.
Yes.
I had Alcorn losing this game today.
Did you really?
Yes. Because it was a classic trap game.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. It is a classic trap game. Yep, it was. Even if it were played on Saturday, it was still a trap game.
Yeah.
Let me make mention of Tennessee State, who I believe is number 3 or 4 in our BCSN top 5, losing their second consecutive conference game, this time to Eastern Illinois, 30-17, pretty much making it almost a non-factor for Tennessee State. I mean, I think Tennessee State has like 6 wins right now on the season, so they can still finish above 500. But I gotta think these last 2 losses kind of sour what it could have been, you know, because you're thinking at one point they came out of that stretch of 3 or 4 games, and I think they won them all, and they were sitting at 6-2. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they're sitting at 6-4. Clearly no shot at winning the OVC Big South, and no shot at the playoffs, no shot at anything. But I mean, 7 wins, you're saying, okay, Coach George has got them on the upswing, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their goal now is to finish above 500.
Yeah, well, they're guaranteed that, but the question is, are they finishing at 7 or 6 wins? Yeah, yeah. I'm disappointed that Hampton lost to William and Mary 31-10. I really thought it was an 11-point spread. I really thought Hampton would come out and play a better game than they did against William and Mary, but you know, that's CIAA life.
Brian, you do realize William and Mary is a top 10 program, right?
I do.
Okay. I just want you to curb your enthusiasm.
Well,
Hey, Brian, since we're not doing the official BCSN rankings, how about giving us a preview of what you're going to vote in the human polls this week on both levels? If you start it out.
Let me do this before we do that. I did want to make mention of one other game, and then I got to look in to see if I have my. I don't have my notebook to see what I voted on last time, but I'll pull it up real quick. I did want to mention South Carolina State. South Carolina State losing on Senior Day, and Buddy Pugh's last home, I believe it's his last game at Orangeburg as the head coach. Morgan State wins 20-17. Of course, that set up this chaotic scenario that's going to play out in the MEAC next week. But Morgan State actually grabbed the lead from South Carolina State after South Carolina State had just scored to take a 17-13 lead with 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. On the ensuing kickoff, Jordan Tolles takes the kickoff 73 yards to the house to give Morgan State the lead, 2017, that they never gave up. The significance of that should not be lost on anyone, because I found it interesting, Drew, that I was watching on Twitter and I was watching some of the romance of Buddy Pugh's final pregame speech and all these things, and to see this team lose at the end of the game kind of goes with the MO of what this team has dealt with all year. From the very first game where they laid an egg against Jackson State, to the Thursday night massacre at North Carolina Central on primetime, to losing Buddy Pugh's last game. I can't imagine the level of disappointment among South Carolina State fans should be high. I know if I were a South Carolina State fan, I'd be absolutely miserable, despondent at what those and look, I hate to put it on players. The players play, right? And maybe the coaches can do a better job of coaching. And we know there's some administrative issues at South Carolina State, but damn, did Buddy Pugh wait 1 year too long? Should Buddy Pugh have gotten out after last season? Hell, should he have gotten out after he won the Celebration Bowl?
There you go.
So there you go.
South Carolina State guys, as important as Buddy Pugh is in Orangeburg, South Carolina State got way more pressing issues than whether Buddy Pugh won that game Saturday or not.
Yeah, but it's okay. I got you, but it still starts and ends with your football. You're right, especially for the football coach and for the football staff and the players.
Brian, let's be real. Buddy Pugh announced his retirement in August. And this is just human nature. How vested are those coaches? Because every coach in that coach's room knows they better have their resume ready to go. They put their houses on the market, and the U-Haul has already been ordered because they probably knew they were not going to be there next year. Now you add in the fact that there's no AD, where Buddy Pugh is the temporary AD, is the interim AD. So will Buddy Pugh make the next hire? Or will they hire somebody to hire somebody? Those coaches have checked out. Those players have checked out.
Sad. So sad. He deserved more. Deserved better. All right, here we go. Let me see if I can find my rankings here. Let's see. This is for week 11. This is from week 11, right?
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find them here. I know I sent them. Let's see. I sent them in. Let's see if I can find them here. Rankings. What's today? Today is, okay, here we go. Okay, so taking a look at my top 10. Okay, so previously my top 5 looked like FAMU, North Carolina Central, Alcorn, Jackson State, Alabama State. Obviously, North Carolina Central lost. Alcorn State lost. Jackson State and Alabama State won.
No, Jackson State was on a bye.
Well, they were on a bye. They didn't lose, put it like that. And then if I go even deeper, my number 16 was Hampton. They lost. Tennessee State was my 7. They lost. Southern was my 8. They lost. Prairie View was my 9. They won. And Howard was my 10.
So, 2 questions, Brian.
Okay.
Does Central move down? And how far up does Howard move? Those are the 2 questions.
I'm not gonna lie. I'd probably move Howard into the top. This is tough because 50-20 is really bad, and I haven't said
3 of the 14.
I got
No.
you.
Let me check this. 7 of the 7 of your top 10 lost. Do I have that correct, Brian? Or
Let's
6
see.
or 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 3,
5,
4,
5
and 10. 5. Okay.
5 lost. Yeah. 50-20 is hard to get over, man. Now, I want to take into consideration it was a road game, but I just remember all that smoke, all that talk by Central. Like, I almost feel like I want to penalize you like ×2 because of all that talk. This was supposed to be the game where you were supposed to put the smack down on Howard and say, you know, you were supposed to make a statement. That was supposed to be a statement game. And instead, Howard's the one who came out and made a statement. Damn. Well, if I believe the SWAC East is better than the MEAC, and I think we're going to find out the true mettle of the SWAC East this upcoming weekend, then I just have to actually put Jackson State at 2 and Alabama State at 3. Now, here's the caveat. I understand Alabama State beat Jackson State. I understand that. Different quarterback at that time for both teams, probably. And I do think Jackson State, there were some issues at the end of the game that they could have won that game. So I would probably drop Central to 4 and come back with Alcorn at 5, Hampton at 6. Or Howard at 6, excuse me. So I'll probably go.
Where's Prairie?
Well, that's where I'm going to get to. So I'm going FAMU 1, Jackson State 2, Alcorn State. I'm sorry, Alabama State 3. And see, I got to pull up the conference records. Hold on, I got them pulled up here because sometimes, you know, when you do these things, at least what I do as a pollster, I will look at conference records. And so I do think that matters, what you do in your conference. But again, with a conference like the MEAC, you got to also kind of look at their non-conference. And so I want to be careful with not dropping Central too low. I still feel like Central is a top 4 team, right?
Right.
So Jackson State and Alabama State both tied at 5 and 2. Alabama State still has 2 games remaining on their schedule, so they have 6 wins. Jackson State has 7. So, you know, that's what that looks like. Alcorn is 5 and 2 as well. They're 6 and 4. So I would definitely move. Yeah, I feel comfortable putting. Actually, I'm gonna go Jackson State 2, Central 3, Alabama State 4. Then I'd go Alcorn 5, Howard 6, Prairie 7. And I don't know, I'm throwing darts on the last 3, obviously. Well, you know, because here's what you got to think about. Once I start getting into the last 3, Southern and Grambling are both 5-5 overall. They have the same overall record as Prairie View. They're just a game behind in terms of conference standing. Tennessee State has 6 wins. So number 8 might be, for me, Tennessee State, to be honest.
But one of those wins is Lincoln of California also.
Well, shit. So then that's 5 then. So there's 5. I mean, you know, if I had to factor in Lincoln University or California Lincoln or whatever the hell their name is, if I got to factor them into everything, then you know, I'm all kinds of sideways with it.
Yeah,
so
all those schools you got to factor in either Lincoln or Virginia Lynchburg.
EA says Alcorn ahead of HU. I'm assuming you're talking about Howard and not Hampton. Yeah, you know, but see, here's the thing. Pollsters, here's the thing. This is why I love rankings. While, yes, we saw Alcorn get their butts handed to them by Texas Southern, you still can't look past a team's body of work. And Alcorn is the one school that, if I'm not mistaken, if I look, they played 10 games against either FCS or FBS opponents.
Alcorn is the one school on that list who has not played below their level in the division.
Right. So
that includes Central, FAMU, and everybody else.
Right.
Yeah, FAMU
now,
played.
Granted, Howard has not either. Howard has played. No, check that. Howard played Morehouse. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So see what I mean? Howard played Morehouse. Morehouse, you know, 1 win Morehouse, and they whooped up on him 66-19. So again, when I say I have Alcorn at 5, I can feel confident in Alcorn's 6 wins and 4 losses being against same division or greater. And they're the only school, I think they're the only school that I can say that about. Is Jackson State. What is Jackson State? Have they played a D2? They played Delta State, didn't they?
No, that was Valley who played Delta State.
So no, okay. So Jackson State is the other team that they have played FCS or better. So, you know, I got to kind of look at them, and I got to look at Alcorn with a little more respect. And so, yeah, hell, I might even put Alcorn ahead of Alabama State, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I might have tipped my hand here. Yeah, so what I say? So again, I need to write this down because I'll probably forget this if I don't send this in. So I got FAMU 1, Jackson State 2, Central 3. Oh, that's what it is. Alcorn 4. So I do have them ahead of Alabama State. Okay, I feel good. Alabama State 5. And the reason I have Alabama State over Howard is because I respect the SWAC East more than I respect the MEAC. I'm just keeping it real. I think the 3 best teams in the SWAC East could punch the 2 or 3 best teams. Take 3 teams who are in the hunt for the Celebration Bowl, and let's match them up against the 3 best in the SWAC East. And I bet you the SWAC East wins at least 2 of those 3.
I got it. Well, Brian, you remember last week when you were trying to figure out who the pollster was who flipped their vote from FAMU to North Carolina Central? Yes. You're talking to him.
True. No, you did. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to co-host the show with you. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So
True.
that makes,
How do you do that when you were politicking for FAMU all this time? How could you explain the rationale behind that? I appreciate your honesty, but explain the rationale?
it's just from what I see. I look at the body of work, but I also keep in mind what just happened on the field. And even though they won by similar margins, I felt that Central's victory was a little bit better in that last week. That's why I gave the 1 vote to Central that week and the 2 to FAMU. Now, because of that, it's easy. Central drops from 1 to 2. FAM goes from 2 to 1 for me. So I flip-flop those 2. Now, my number 3, I go with Jackson State for my number 3. Alabama State now becomes number 4 for me. And then 5, that's when I start getting into the weeds and start trying to look. Because your debate is, no, there's no debate. I still have to go with Alcorn at 5. Yeah, I have to go with Alcorn at 5.
Okay.
And then I'm probably 5 through 10. 6 through 10. That's when I have to do some serious soul searching and look at this stuff. Because I had Tennessee State up there. How far do I drop Tennessee State? How much do I move Howard up? Who is Prairie View this week? Those are the questions that I have to ask myself in that 6 through 10. That's 6, 7, and 8. 9 and 10, you reach into the hat and what you pull out, you pull out. I probably have Grambling ahead of Southern right now, just for the simple fact Grambling won, Southern lost.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's going to be in that top 10 or not, but that's just what I'm looking at. Who am I forgetting out there? That's pretty much it, bro.
Yeah. It's really
that's
like
9 and 10.
It's really
After
shuffling
that,
the deck of cards at that point.
After that, it's like who cares after that? Now, when you go to the Division II level.
Hold on a second before we go there. Edwin asked, so have we written Tennessee State off? Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, Edwin. What else is there for them to accomplish? They got.
Are they at home this Saturday? I'm just curious.
I don't even see. Yes, they are. They're home against Tennessee Tech.
What is Tennessee State playing for? To see if they can get 4,000 people at the game. That's what they're playing for.
Wow. No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Anyway, moving on to the Division II level.
Yeah.
I've got Benedict 1, Union 2. I've got to move Fayetteville up to 3. I had Virginia State at 3 before that, but I've got to move Fayetteville up to 3 and move Virginia State down to 4. And I've got to put Miles at 5, ahead of Fort Valley.
Why? Neither team played. So why do you move somebody?
Well, I had Miles ahead of Fort Valley anyway, but Miles has the one thing Fort Valley doesn't have. Miles has that FCS victory on their schedule.
Virginia State beat an FCS team too. Don't forget.
I got Virginia State ahead of Miles.
Oh, okay.
So, but Miles beat a better FCS than Virginia State did. Miles beat the team that's probably realistically will finish second in the SWAC East via the tiebreaker.
Let me ask, where are you putting Florida Memorial?
After that loss, the way that they lost, they're in the second five. If I was to go with that second five, what did I leave off at? I left off at Miles. Fort Valley would be 6.
Albany State, did they move anywhere?
No.
Where did you previously have them?
I didn't have Albany State in.
Wow, not even in the top 10.
Brian, there were legitimately, when I would vote, there were legitimately 12 or 13 teams that I would look at on the D2 level every week and had to find a reason why I was eliminating those last 3.
Okay.
And unfortunately, Albany State was never in that conversation of those 3 to eliminate. Albany State was always on the outside for me, so they are not, despite getting to the championship game, they are not getting in.
See, I had them in based on the results of their last 2 weeks. I had them up to as high as 5.
Yeah, but let's see. I went Fort Valley 6. Allen maybe 7. Maybe Allen 7. Then you get into that mix. You got Johnson C. Smith. You've got who am I leaving out? Emma Waters. You've got in there. You've got Johnson C. You've got Florida Memorial, and of course you mentioned Albany State. You know, you've got those 4 to make the last 3 spots to beat. Did I forget anybody? Oh, it's Tuskegee. Tuskegee, yeah. That's the other one. You got 5 teams to make 3 spots out of that mix right there.
Okay. When I look at mine, let me see. My top 10 over on that side. I had Benedict and Virginia Union. They'll stay 1 and 2. I had Fayetteville State 3, so they'll stay at 3. This is where I had Florida Memorial 4, and I had Albany State 5. I think I will drop those 3 or those 2, and I'll tell you where I drop them behind. After Florida Memorial, my 5, 6, and 7 were. No, I'm sorry. After Florida Memorial and Albany State, they were 4 and 5. My 6, 7, and 8 was Fort Valley State, Virginia State, Miles. I think those 3 will all shift up. So Fort Valley will be 4, Virginia State 5, Miles 6. And I think then that's where right now I move Florida Memorial to 7, Albany State to 8. And I'm going to leave Johnson C. Smith at 9 and Tuskegee at 10. And obviously, Florida Memorial still has
left Allen all the way out.
Yeah, I left Allen out. Yeah, I left Allen out.
And you left Edward Waters out.
Yeah, Edward Waters, 5 wins. They didn't have more wins than Johnson
6 wins.
C.
Edward Waters had 6.
I still didn't have more than Johnson C.
I'm just bringing it out.
Yeah, Tuskegee has 6 conference wins, which is more than Edward Waters. And I forgot what it was about Allen that kind of was the tough break, was the tough call there for Allen. I think I don't know, whatever it was. I think it was a tough scenario that I had Allen out. Speaking of Allen, David Wright, Offensive Player of the Year in the SIAC.
Who called that back in July?
Yeah, good call. Too bad we couldn't have put some futures on it. Wonder what the odds would have been. I was kind of interested to see where Jiven Russell or Lubert Danellis would have ended up in the mix. The Dennis Aeneas of Benedict end up in the hunt anywhere? It'd be nice if the SIAC released the total results, just for transparency's sake. I'd also ask the same thing in the Coach of the Year award. I mean, I know Chinnis Berry, well deserving for the second consecutive year, but I don't know. I think there might be a few candidates in there that we've talked about. Teddy Keaton and Allen, who covered the most ground. I think he was preseason 11, and they moved all the way up to 5 or 6, I think.
And then you got Sam Shade, who had the greatest number of victories.
Yeah, Sam Shade had the best turnaround from one season to the next. Yeah, I got you back now, Drew.
Yes.
All right.
Did you hear what I said about Sam Shade?
You started out and then I lost you.
I said Sam Shade, who had the greatest increase in victories from his team from one season to the next out of all those coaches.
Right. I figured that's where you were going when you said that. Okay, let's quickly go through the schedule and get out of here. This upcoming weekend starts with a Thursday night game on November 16th. Mississippi Valley State traveling to Alabama A&M. 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern. Will it be the last home game for Connell Maynor at Alabama A&M? The Bulldogs cannot finish above 500, so it'll be the second consecutive below 500 season, although it will be an improvement from a year ago. I mean, well, I don't know. Will it? Let me see here before I say that. No, it could not. And maybe if they lose, it won't be, because last year they finished 4-7. They're currently 4-6. Yeah, if they lose the Valley, oof. Yeah, that's not going to be a good look. But anyway,
here's the next question: can UAPB get a conference victory?
They travel to Texas Southern on Saturday, 2:00. That's on HBCU Go. Last chance for UAPB to get that conference victory. Texas Southern has 2 of them now, and so yeah, that's interesting. That'll be a tough one for UAPB. Let's see. Hampton is on the road to Elon. I think Hampton is 5-5 right now in the Colonial, which is pretty impressive, I think, because Hampton was predicted to finish second to last. They're currently 3-4. They got a chance to go 4-4. Elon, though, is a team that is 5-2 overall, but they are 5-2 in conference play. So,
and that's the Continental, Brian.
I just call it the CIAA, Drew. I'm not going to try to figure out. I'm not going to figure. I'm not smart enough to try to figure out if it's Colonial, Continental, is it the Coastal, or whatever.
The Colonel.
The Colonel. It just CIAA is what they're going to be known as.
Yeah. Are we doing picks before we get out of here?
Nah, I don't know. Let's quickly do picks. Morgan State travels to Howard. Who you got?
I got Morgan State.
Ooh, it's tough. Let's see. Howard won this game 35-6 last year at Morgan. Man, I'm gonna roll with Howard, man. Why not? I'm gonna roll with Howard. I think they talk that talk, and let me see them back it up here the second week in a row. So I'm going with Howard and Howard to win the MEAC. So if you go with Morgan State to win, You got Central beating Delaware State?
Yes, I do.
So in that case, you're putting Central back in the now. If you're Central, do you think North Carolina Central would rather go back to the Celebration Bowl as the MEAC champ, or do you think they'd love an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament?
Which one? Of course, they want to go back and defend their title.
All right, I just had to ask it. And there is a possibility. I saw there was a pollster, Sam Herder. I think he had North Carolina Central on his at-large list. So there is an opportunity. The fact that the pollster's thinking about it and considering, and like you said, how far will Central drop in the coaches poll? They were 7th in the coaches poll.
I think they'll drop the high teens.
What, 12 or less?
I think 12 is a safe number.
12 is a safe number. All right, so we'll be looking to see if they drop below 12. Alcorn traveling to Jackson State. That's a 3 Eastern, 2 Central kickoff at Jackson. Senior day for Jackson State. Alcorn coming off the loss. Ooh, Drew, who you got?
This is SWAC East versus SWAC West, correct?
SWAC East versus SWAC West. Yes, indeed.
The Mets in the West, right?
Yes, indeed.
Don't trust the West, right?
That's what they say.
Jackson State.
Who won this game last year? Jackson State did.
Yeah.
Oof.
And Jackson State has an outside shot at the playoffs.
Way outside.
I mean, some things would have to go right, but we just saw it at D2 where 11 of the top 25 lost. So it would have to be that type of scenario on the FCS level.
I think they'd have to beat like Alcorn. I think they'd need a good, strong victory.
They'd have to beat Alcorn like Alcorn got beat today.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. So tough to go on the road here again, but you know, what's funny is I hopped off of the bandwagon. I had picked Prairie View at the beginning of the season. And then I flipped over to Alcorn. Damn. I'm gonna go Alcorn State. Why not? I'm gonna stick to where I've been at on my thoughts. Alabama State travels to Prairie View A&M, 3:00 Eastern, 2 Central. So get the dual boxes ready for ESPN Plus, as you can watch both of these games on ESPN Plus. East versus West. Drew, who you got?
Same thing. The sun rises in the east.
I feel foolish now thinking that the West will win both of these, but I'm gonna go Prairie View. I'm gonna go Prairie View winning, and thus Prairie View winning the tiebreaker over Alcorn. Ugh. I feel dirty. I feel dirty just saying that.
Don't move so fast, Brian.
I may look. I withhold the right to change my pick on Wednesday show because I'm feeling.
Grambling, FAMU celebrate in the championship game.
That would be great. That would be great. That would be so undeserving, but I would love it. I would love it. But let's not go that far. Let's just get to the SWAC championship game.
Well, these two have to lose in order to set up my scenario, so I'm picking those two to lose.
Retype your question in there, Larry. I don't. He's not seeing the chats, so you may retype whatever your question is for Drew. Type it in again. All right. So damn, I'm picking the 2 West teams. You're picking the 2 East teams. That's dirty. I feel dirty about that. I really am. I may change that on Wednesday. I got to do some research. Tennessee Tech travels to Tennessee State.
Who cares?
That's in Nashville, ESPN Plus at 3 Eastern. Tennessee State with a chance to get 7 wins. We already talked about UAPB traveling to Texas Southern. I don't think Texas Southern loses. They look like they are winning games the right way. I think UAPB is going to go 0-8 in conference play. Dell State at North Carolina Central, scheduled for 2 o'clock Eastern. Dell State is winless right now, 0-4. They will be 0-5 after all this is said and done. South Carolina State.
Norfolk.
At Norfolk State. Last chance, Buddy Pugh's last game. I got to imagine South Carolina State is going to win this game, but
I would too.
Yeah, given everything this team has shown us, I will not be surprised if Norfolk State wins this game, but I'll be rooting for South Carolina State to win it. And then the Florida Classic in Orlando, Camping World Stadium, 3:30 on ESPN Plus. Might be interesting, given the fact that Bethune just ran 400 yards on somebody. Might be a little bit closer than people want it to be. Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know if there's a point spread on that game. But if I said, what scares me about that, Drew, if I see a point spread of 7. Now, here's the thing. Remember my stat I told you, point spreads of 17 or more by Willie Simmons teams. They're like 1-6 or 1-7. I think that 1 is Bethune. And I think that was last year. But anyway, I think FAMU wins this one by at least 14, maybe 17. Right at 17. All right. The top 5 rankings, the new rankings will come out tomorrow. We'll post those on the social media pages. Make sure you're following the Black College Sports Network, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number 1. And we'll post out the new 5s. Excuse me. Has FAMU done enough, according to the computers, to jump Tennessee State, who've lost 2 in a row, and North Carolina Central, who just lost to Howard? Although FAMU just played a non-division NCAA team. Well, I guess Lincoln is Division II, so okay. So they beat a Division II team 24-0. Not impressed, personally. Will it be enough to move them to number 1? We shall see when the computer spits out its final numbers tonight. Drew, any final thoughts as we close out the show?
Man, let's pick up this show and get out of here.
All right. You can always hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook page, BCSN SportsWrap, Black College Sports Network. You can find us on Twitter at BCSN Drew is where you can find Drew. At DRB365. Come check out the ONG Strike Zone with me, Kelvin Rozier, and Marcus Green on Wednesday. We'll give you the preview for the Florida Classic for those of you who are interested in FAMU athletics. Dr. Cavill, inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles Bishop, Mike Washington, Tuesday night and Thursday night, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. They will go through the week that was and the week that is ahead. And also give you a little more insight into these matchups for the upcoming weekend. And then, of course, Saturday, you can catch the Carlos Brown Show. All of our shows are available on the BCSN Pod Zone. Everywhere you listen to podcasts, we'd appreciate it if you download, if you subscribe, leave a good review, share, the podcast with your friends and family. Share our YouTube page. You can also become a member of JBN membership as well. When you join the page, just go to myjbnonline/join, youtube.com/myjbnonline/join. Become a member and continue to support the Black College Sports Network. We really appreciate you guys always on YouTube, on Facebook, and everywhere else. Thanks for all the good conversation. Thanks for all the help in the chat rooms. You guys have a good evening. Didn't get a chance to say this earlier, but to all of our veterans, all of our servicemen and women, we thank you for your service. We appreciate you. We respect you. And we can't say thank you enough and can't say it in a big enough way, but we salute you and we thank you. So to all of the servicemen and women, hopefully you have been honored and recognized properly this Veterans Weekend. Happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Weekend to all. All right. For A.D. Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. You've been watching the BCSN SportsWrap. Peace out, everybody.
But you stay on hard.